If you manage Microsoft 365 or Azure, every single user sign-in ties back to one place, Microsoft Entra ID. Today I am going to show you exactly how Entra handles user authentication. By the end of this video, you will know the exact difference between primary and secondary authentication, where to configure them, and the 3 levels of security strength you absolutely need to understand. This is essential whether you are securing your tenants or studying for Microsoft certification. Let's start with the basic. In Entra ID, the authentication method you configure apply to everything. They control Azure sign-in, Microsoft 365 access, multi-factor authentication or MFA, and self-service password reset SSPR. But where do you actually manage this? The path is simple. Go to the Entra Admin Center at entra.microsoft.com, navigate to Entra ID and click on Authentication Method. From this single screen, you can enable or disable any method. You can also assign them to all users or specific security groups. Now let's talk about the most important rule of Entra authentication. Microsoft categorizes every method into one of the 2 buckets, primary and secondary. Here is the rule. Primary authentication is the initial method used to sign in. Traditionally, this was just your username and the password. But today, modern primary methods include passwordless sign-in as well. Secondary authentication is what happens after that initial sign-in. It provides additional proof of identity. You typically use secondary method for MFA or password resets. Let's look at the real-world example. If you type in a password, that's primary. When your phone buzzes with the Microsoft Authenticator push notification to approve that login, that is secondary. However, if you use Microsoft Authenticator passwordless, where you just tap a number on your phone without ever typing a password, in that scenario, the Authenticator app acts as your primary method. We have looked at the tiers, but now let's look at the master matrix. This table is the ultimate guide because it breaks down every method by its 3 possible roles: primary sign-in, secondary MFA, and self-service password reset SSPR. Notice the top of the list. Windows Hello, Platform Credential for macOS, and Passkeys are the heavy hitters. They are yes across the board for both primary and secondary authentication because they are inherently phishing resistant. If you want the highest security, this is your target zone. Now look at where the no entries are. Some methods like Microsoft Authenticator, passwordless, and QR code sign-in are amazing for getting you into an account, but they are not used for self-service password reset. This is the key technical detail. Just because a method is primary doesn't mean it can help you reset a forgotten password. This is a pro tip for your exams or your tenant setup. Email OTP behaves differently depending on who is using it. For your internal members, it is strictly for self-service password reset, but for guest users, it can actually be a primary sign-in method for B2B collaboration. So to summarize this matrix, phishing resistance method do it all, primary and MFA. Legacy method like SMS and voice are versatile but they're weak, and email OTP is your guest and reset safety net. So to quickly recap, primary is your way in, secondary is your proof it's actually you are, and some tools like the Authenticator app or the Passkey can handle both depending on how you configure them. Now that we know how users sign in, we need to rank how secure those sign-ins actually are. Microsoft Entra breaks this down into 3 tiers of authentication strength. Tier 1 is the multi-factor authentication strength, often just called basic MFA. This is your standard password plus a second factor. Think SMS codes, voice calls, or an authenticator push notification. So here is the harsh reality. Basic MFA is better than nothing, but it is highly vulnerable. Password can be phished, SMS codes can be intercepted. Push notifications used to be highly vulnerable to MFA fatigue attacks, where hackers would spam users until they accidentally hit approve. To combat this, Microsoft now explicitly enforced number matching by default for all Authenticator push notifications. While number matching stops MFA fatigue, it is still not completely foolproof because it cannot stop a real-time phishing attack. Use this tier for legacy app, but do not stop here. Tier 2 is the passwordless MFA strength. According to Microsoft, this tier includes methods that satisfy multi-factor authentication requirements without ever requiring a password. Users sign in using methods like Microsoft Authenticator phone sign-in. Why is this stronger? Because if there is no password, there is nothing for a hacker to steal, use or reuse. But be aware, passwordless doesn't always mean phishing resistant. A user can still be tricked into approving a passwordless phone sign-in prompt on a highly convincing fake website. Tier 3 is the phishing resistant MFA strength. This is the absolute gold standard. This method cannot be replayed, intercepted, or socially engineered. To achieve this built-in strength, a user only needs to sign in with one of three core methods. They are FIDO2 security keys, which include Passkeys, Windows Hello for Business or macOS platform credentials, or multi-factor certificate-based authentication. And why are these unbreakable? They use advanced cryptography that is physically bound to the device, the user, and the legitimate Entra sign-in page. A fake Microsoft login screen simply cannot process the cryptographic handshake. So how do you actually apply this in the real world? Let's look at a quick do this and avoid this checklist. Do this. Prioritize moving your administrators and VIPs to phishing resistance method like FIDO2 Passkeys immediately. Privileged accounts are the biggest targets for attackers, so they absolutely need the strongest protection available. Also, when you are onboarding new staff, start using a temporary access pass or TAP. This is a massive win for security. A TAP allows your new hires to securely register their permanent passkeys or authenticator app on their very first day, meaning IT never has to issue a vulnerable temporary password again. Avoid this. It is officially time to phase out of SMS, text message and voice calls for MFA. Microsoft strongly recommends transitioning your user away from these legacy phone methods because they are highly vulnerable to SIM swapping, SIM swapping, interception and modern phishing toolkits. They simply are not secure enough to protect your tenants against today's cyber threats. Let's wrap this up with 3 key takeaways to remember for your tenants or your next certification exam. 1. Primary authentication gets you in the door, while secondary authentication proves you actually belongs there. 2. You manage all of these options from a single pane of glass. Just head to the Entra Admin Center, click on Properties and go to Authentication Methods. 3. Aim for the top of the pyramid. Whenever possible, prioritize the phishing resistance MFA strength like device-bound passkeys over basic MFA. If this breakdown helped you finally make sense of Microsoft Entra Authentication, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe for more no-nonsense identity security guides. I am really curious though. Drop a comment below and let me know which method your organization relies on the most right now. Are you still stuck using SMS, heavily relying on the Authenticator app, or have you officially made the jump to Passkeys? Thanks for watching, stay secure out there, and I'll see you in the next video.